Hello everyone, I hope you are all doing well. Today we will resume our course of business communication and we're going to be talking about job interviews. That is to say, how to conduct successfully a job interview. A lot of students inquire about what are job interviews like and how they are conducted, and I hope all these inquiries will be answered in this video. Today we are going to talk about three main things. We are going to try to define what a job interview is and its types, how to prepare for a job interview, and how to deal with some of the most common, asked questions during a job interview. Now let's start with the definition of job interview. A job interview is one of the selection processes where an applicant and a recruiter exchange information in order to assess whether that applicant should be recruited. That is to say, and in the classroom we previously talked about the selection process, and by selection process we mean the methods that are used in order to recruit people. And recruiters generally starting with examining the CVs and the cover letters, and to try to select some good candidates which meet the requirements of the job, and then they invite them for a group interview. And they said that most of the companies don't opt for group interviews, but they just jump into the next step, which is individual interviews. After that, the recruiters shortlist the best candidates, 3 to 4, and they try to check their references either by contacting the referees or just by examining their recommendation documents. And finally, a job is offered to the best, or let's say most fitting candidate. We also talked about CVs and cover letters, and I showed you how to write a good one. And I said that CVs and cover letters are not tools to get the job, but they are just means to get the chance to get the job. And let's say this chance is a job interview. So job interview can be defined as an opportunity for the applicant to show more potentials and more skills to the recruiter and to show that he is the person for the job. Now, there are many types of job interviews, and when we speak about interviews in general, there are two types: structured and unstructured. And some people talk about semi-structured interviews. Unstructured interviews are, let's say, spontaneous conversations in which the questions are not predetermined or prearranged or prepared before. As opposed to structured interviews, they are, conversations in which a list of predetermined questions is already arranged before in a specific order in order to be asked for the interviewees. Now, based on the textbooks that we are using in the classroom, there are other types of job interviews or other manners of doing a job interview. The first one, as you can see in your textbook, is what we call the screening interview. That is to say, here typically it's done by someone in the human resource department, and they basically try to check the information that you have in the CV and cover letter, and they see whether they meet the minimum requirements of the job, and then they select you for the next session. So it can take place in person or through the computer or the phone. The next type of the interview is selection interview, called also the decision interview. Typically it's done by a supervisor or someone who's got an authority to hire you, maybe your potential boss. And in this selection interview, the interviewers or recruiters already made sure that you had the necessary qualifications and skills for the job, but what is important here is they check your personality traits and the manners, whether they fit into the job requirements or not. For example, they can ask you whether you like working in groups or working alone, working in closed or open spaces, so that they can see whether your profile fits or meet the working conditions in their company. The next type is group interviews. Here you have several candidates being interviewed at once, at the same time by somebody, or by interviewers in general. So typically here, the objective of group interviews is to separate those team leaders or these leaders from the followers, and to see which are team players and those who take initiatives to ask questions, those who suggest creative ideas, and so on. So people who can step out in a group. Now the next one is the panel interview, which is the other way around, where you have several interviewers in front of you. This might be frightening and stressful because you have too many eyes and too many questions fired at you, and sometimes you don't know what to do. So it's very important to keep well composed, and to relax, to show a relaxed face, and try to keep an eye contact with everybody. Now the last type is called the stress interview. In this stress interview, normally the interviewers may put you in difficult situations or tough situations, like for example asking you about asking you too many questions at once, for example, and you feel lost, you don't know where to start and how to approach them at once. Or they may ask you embarrassing questions about your family, your relationships, and so on. Maybe this is considered by some as inappropriate, but still it's used as a technique to see how you can react to the situation, how you handle these tough situations or embarrassing situations. So the most important thing is to stay calm, show a relaxed face, and try to keep calm, and you handle it very, very serenely. The next one is how to prepare for a job interview. And this is the most important part actually of these presentations. Now imagine that you are informed that you will have a job interview and you need to prepare for it. Of course, at this stage you have to stay calm, positive, but also practical. Before the job interview, for example, you should evidently confirm make sure of the place, the time, and the date of the meeting. Some people check everything, even the parking slots around the place where the interview is going to take place, or for example the means of transport that take there, and so on. Another thing to do before the interview is ask if there is anything specific that the interviewers would like you to prepare or bring with you. Could be justifying documents, or preparing a PowerPoint presentation, or anything of the sort. Make sure that you ask them if there are any necessary things that you need to bring with you before the job interview. Third is gather as much information about the employer or company as possible. You can ask somebody who's working there, or you can check their website to get a feel of the company, culture and its services, its objectives, and its challenges as well. This would help you on orienting your answers during job interview, and also make you seem, interested and well informed about the company, which is very good actually. Next is prepare your outfit and any other necessary documents. Documents like having an extra CV and copies of your diplomas and trainings with you. And outfit, your attire or clothes should be clean, should be, let's say, formal and appropriate to the situation in general. Next is make a list of anticipated questions during the interview. So before you go, sit down, ask somebody who is more experienced about the general questions asked in such interviews that you are going to take, or you just anticipating them yourself based on your CV, information that you have in your cover letters and CV as well. So it's good also to prepare clear and concise answers to these questions. And make sure that you rehearse as well at home. You can videotape yourself or rehearse in front of the mirror or in front of your friends. This will help you examine a number of things. For example, your tone of your voice, the pace of your talk, and your voice projection, your body language, which should be well controlled, and so on. And this makes you well prepared for the interview, and at the same time, it boosts your confidence, which is of paramount importance. Now let's go to during the interview. It goes without saying that you need to arrive on time. That's number one. So you have to manage your time properly. You have to manage time of getting up, of getting ready, of transports to the place of the interview, everything. So that you make sure that you arrive at some time before the actual time of the interview. Second thing is dress properly. I talked about this. It has to be clean, formal, and suitable to the situations. It shouldn't be over, because, for example, girls don't put on too much makeup, for example, or a lot of jewelry. And for example, boys don't go with the strange hairstyle. And all what you need is to keep well presented and and clean outfit that represents good image about you. And also it suits the kind of context that you are in actually. So generally appearance, whether we like it or no, it plays a role there, especially in making good first impressions. Now the next thing to do is listen or establish a good rapport. Now interviewers are not only interested in your qualifications and skills, but also in your personality and manners. And that begins from the moment you step into the space of the interview. For example, when you get in, you say hi in a good way, for example, and then you shake hands properly, and for example, wait until they offer their hands, not to be embarrassed, or ask permission to sit down before you start the interview. All such manners, or good manners, help in building good rapport with the interviewers, even before you start the interview. Next is listen attentively to the questions. Give them wide open ears and try to listen to every word articulated. And if you don't understand any question, you can ask politely the inquirer to repeat his or her question in clearer or simpler words, so that you can understand, and that would help you in answering the questions well. Of course, when you answer, you should use clear and correct language. You should, for example, use good voice projection, and you should try to articulate well all what you say. And be careful of your diction, because sometimes, a lot of questions are derived from what you say. So you have to be prepared and careful of every word that you say, and be prepared in general. Now the next is watch your body language. It means you should control your the movement of your hands, for example. You shouldn't move a lot or should not fold them. Just put them on your tap or hold them together. It would be enough. Also your eye contact. Try to maintain an eye contact with everyone on the panel. Okay, and try to appear very relaxed and smiling, and even though it's very natural to feel the stress, but try to control yourself. So your body language should be in general controlled and acceptable. Now the next or the last thing is that we do during the interview is sometimes we are asked to ask questions. Especially towards the end of the interviews, the interviewers invite us to ask certain questions if we have them, and if we do, it's better to have prepared. The option is to bring or to talk about or to mention some weaknesses that are not critical for the job that you are applying for. For example, if you are applying to be a teacher of English, you can tell them, for example, I am not really good at mathematics and at numbers in general. Because normally teaching a foreign language does not necessarily entail, let's say, high numeracy skills or good numeracy skills in general. The third question that can be asked is, what are your salary requirements? I talked about this, and this is a sensitive question. But the center point of this question is, to what extent your expectations are realistic. Of course, try, as I said, to build your answer on, for example, your experience and on how normally people get paid in such job positions and so on. And also try to give a range. And if you can throw the ball on their field, that would be great, because you invite them to make, for example, the first suggestion. But if you don't like their, for example, suggestion, say that, okay? State it, but of course in a polite and appropriate way. There is always a room for negotiations, and be careful and prepared for this question. That's very important, actually. Now, the last question I brought up today is, why should I hire you? Actually, here, in all the questions asked to you during a job interview, you should indicate why you are the one to be hired and why you are the best person to be hired. But if you are asked directly this question, show them that you are the one based on your background, on your skills, potentials, and also on your personal qualities. And try to show that you are best based on your added value to the company, not just because you want the job, actually. And of course, these are just general guidelines, okay? For example, you can show, for example, that you enjoy the work and you like the work and that you are very ready to start any let's say responsibilities from the next day. That shows that you're really engaged with such a job that you're applying for. As I said now, these are just general suggestive ideas. They are not really something that is to be slavishly followed, but they are guidelines that would help you prepare successfully for a job interview. Other questions might be brought up, for example, during the interview. There is a lot of material available in Google and YouTube. You can Google them or YouTube them if you want. And before you, for example, prepare for the job interview, I think we come to the end of our session for this video. Thank you very much and stay safe.